Now, many of you know Hazel did things the old-fashioned way, and boy, did I learn a lot of life lessons from Hazel the old-fashioned way. I think, or should I say, I know I wouldn't be the man I am today if it were not for Hazel. One of the reasons that my older brother, who by the way cannot be here today, but wants each and every one of you to know what an impact she made on his life as well, my sister and myself are able to adapt to the world we live in now is because of Hazel. She literally treated the three of us as if we were her own kids. We would learn valuable lessons from her on how to carry ourselves on a daily basis. I want to tell you guys that when I was younger and didn't listen to my parents, as we all go through those stages in life when we like to rebel, it was Hazel whom they would send me to because of the bond my parents knew we had with one another. Now, don't get me wrong, I knew when I had to face Hazel under those circumstances, my Lord, did I try and behave really, really quick. Yes, it was Hazel, I like to tell people, who really gave me my first backside whooping. I remember one time I got mad at my mom and pretended to run away, only to fall asleep behind the couch in our house, and yep, you guessed it, Hazel found me. And to this day, I think I may still have a mark or two on my behind from when she told me, if you ever do something like that again to your mother, you better believe I'll do it again. And I tell y'all, I've never tried to pretend to run away again. There are the times when Hazel introduced me to things that I never would have imagined or never would have known about if it wasn't for her. Like the first time she told me to go out in my backyard and start picking these big old green leaves. And I'm saying to myself, what in the world has she got me doing? This must be something to spice up some iced tea with or something. And she quickly would tell me, no, boy, this is called poke salad. And I tell y'all, if I could cook, I'd be in everyone's backyard today picking those big old green leaves. Because, boy, that's some good stuff. And speaking of food, my brother, sister, and I sure enjoyed my mom's cooking. But I got to tell y'all a little secret. We really couldn't wait for the nights when my mother would be gone for dinner because we knew Hazel would take over the cooking and we were guaranteed some real good food coming our way. When I tell you that Hazel Stroger made the best green beans that one could ever have, you have no idea. You know how everyone says their mama makes the best this, the best that, my grandma makes the best this, the best that. Well, I'll put Hazel's green beans up against any of them. When Hazel wasn't around, my mom sure would give it her best try to use Hazel's recipe for those green beans, but the problem is that she measured everything to the gram, including the salt. I have never seen Hazel ever use a recipe in her life. She did it all by feel. That was the difference. Y'all know what I mean. Now, of course, there were those sad times that all of us have experienced with Hazel and her family. The ones I personally remember are when God took two of her daughters to come be with him. It was the first time I ever saw Hazel cry. She would tell me it was just me, and when it was just me and her together, that God was supposed to take her first, and how can this be? You see, Hazel was a deeply religious person, and she told me through those tears that you have to deal with whatever God brings your way. And she had to stay strong for her other kids and grandkids. She is one of the strongest people I have ever been associated with when it came to talking about death. Now, all of us in this church believe one thing or another. It doesn't matter what religion you are, but what we all do know is that there is a God, and he will take care of us, take care of any issues we have. Now, for those of you who, again, really know me, it's different hearing me talking about God. But I know there is a God, and he will not only see all of us through this day, but he will see each and every one of us again on another day. Yes, Mom and Dad, I still have some religion left in me. You can thank Hazel for that as well. Now, there's a lot Hazel would tell me that I never would tell my parents, and it wasn't from a disrespectful standpoint. It was just that Hazel and I had this special bond that only each of us knew certain things. Hazel, at least to me, was actually a very private person, but would gladly open up and gleam about her children if someone would ask her about them. Family. Yes, family was such an important part of Hazel's life, and if y'all know Hazel like I do, you know she is related to everyone in this room, outside this room, everyone over at the varsity, everyone at Carver Homes. I tell you, I've never met a woman with more relatives than Hazel, and she would tell y'all that she was related to everyone in one way or another. Hazel would tell me about some of her ups and downs with all of her children, but the one thing she always said is how much she loved them. Now, Hazel has many grandkids and great-grandkids, and I know each one of them in this church today will hopefully live the rest of their life like Hazel lived hers. They simply can't go wrong if they do so. Hazel helped raise my brother, sister, and myself so she could afford the opportunity to make her kids and grandkids have a wonderful life. This is a lady who would take the bus every day to come to our house just so she could try and make family life better. As far as I know, Hazel never drove a car a day in her life, never flew on a plane, never knew how to swim, yet still found a way to get all jobs done. I'm telling you, I could stand here all day and tell Hazel stories. I just enjoy her so much. I mean, last night at the wake, to hear the stories, people would tell me that you must be that Danny that Hazel talks about all the time. And that just means the world to me because I know what she would say, at least most of the time. The outpouring of support that everyone has shown to Hazel and her family is beyond words, and those who helped make this homegoing possible, well, God will give you the ultimate gift. Now, when Hazel started having these health issues and she had to be put in a rehab center, it became very difficult for her because it was not home. Everyone knows that Carver Homes was home for Hazel. It was the only home she wanted to be in. Well, I told her that I would be with her every day if I could to help get her back home where she could be on her own, and she tried so hard to do what they asked of her to get better. Then all of a sudden, here we go with another problem, this doggone foot. There are many questions to be asked, many questions to be answered, only God knows them. But Hazel was again willing to do whatever it took to get back home. You know, when we found out that they would have to take her foot, I clearly remember her saying, if they got to take my feet, my legs, my hands, I don't care, I just want to get back home. Now, another very important person in my life is Erica, and when I introduced the two of them many years ago, another bond was formed. Boy, didn't Hazel just have that magic about her to where it was impossible not to be her friend. But Erica started to bring her young nephews to see Hazel at her house time and again, and then, of course, the rehab center, and this would just make her day. She would always ask how those boys were doing, so I can only imagine the spunk in her when her real grandkids and great-grandkids came to see her. She just loved the kids. Well, after they took her foot, Hazel still had an upbeat attitude, but it was a little bit hard-headed from time to time, as we all are in some kind of way. But again, she wanted to get back to that darn house of hers. I would try and go up every day or so and see Hazel, and the first thing I would do is ask her to squeeze my hands with each one of hers. And I tell you, at 89, it was one of the strongest grips you could imagine. So I knew the fight was still in her. There was never a day when she let up on that squeeze. Now, I'm not a doctor, of course, but I would have her do some hand-to-leg exercises because she really wasn't feeling the physical therapy crew, because I knew deep down inside she would do it for me. Well, it's interesting because about 1 or 2 months ago, as I would leave from seeing Hazel, I started to find myself kissing her on her cheek goodbye. I had never done anything like that before to Hazel. I found myself giving her neck massages when she said her neck hurt. Erica would go up and do the same, and Brenda would also go up and try and make Hazel as comfortable as possible. But again, the bottom line is that Hazel wanted to go home. Well, as I would call Hazel on a daily, even hourly basis to check on her, and by the way, y'all know she had to learn how to use a cell phone in this rehab center. That was a good time, because y'all know Hazel could not be without her phone, and to watch her learn all this technology stuff, I'll never forget it. But she figured it out as she does with everything, and she knew how to answer and make calls, and she was always assuring me that she was okay, but she did also tell me in times of pain. I found myself going to visit more and more, and I just got so consumed with getting Hazel better because I knew she wanted to get back home. And I wanted to try and help make that possible. Well, I took my first 2 straight week vacation a couple of weeks ago, and Erica and I went up to the rehab center the night before I left and spent all evening with her laughing and telling stories. And she was strong and eating on her own, but she again would still sneak in that I want to go home, and I would just continue to tell her, Hazel, you will get there. We just got to get your leg a little better. As we were saying our goodbyes, I told her to be strong, and I can't wait to see her when I get back and show her all my pictures from my trip. And as I had started to do on earlier visits, I kissed her cheek and rubbed my hand on her cheek and told her I loved her. And she just wanted me to have the best time on my trip. Well, I called her when I got to my first destination, and she said she was okay. I called her when I got to my second stop, and she said she was okay. And then all of a sudden, she doesn't answer when I get to my third stop. You had to call Hazel like 3 or 4 times on these cell phones before she would answer, because she was new to it. But I tried her 6, 7, or 8 times, and I thought something was out of sorts when she finally didn't answer. I usually call the nursing staff, but I didn't because I know how your mind begins to wander, and I didn't want mine to do that while I was out of town. Well, the next morning, I'm sitting at a pool, and Brenda calls me, and like always, I said, Brenda, is everything okay? She said, no, Hazel passed. I had no words except to say, can you please call my mom? As soon as I hung up, you can imagine what went through my head. Yes, I started to cry and think about 1,000 different things, but a cool calm came about me not too long after because Hazel finally got what she wanted. She went home. God called on her to come to His house, His kingdom, where she could be with her other kids and be in a place where there's no sorrow and no problems, and she ain't got to worry about that doggone foot. You see, she is so comfortable right now, and that's what comforts all of us in this room. I have learned a little more religion, and I have come to realize that each and every one of us is just here temporarily serving God's commands. We do not know when he will choose to take us to his kingdom, but we must live every day in a positive way so that when his decision does come, we know where we will be going. God has one of the best people on earth with him now, and there are some lucky people whom she now joins. I can just see her now telling everyone in heaven that she is related to them, and I can see her now asking, would anyone like to try green beans? I can just see her now smiling because I personally did something today I never do when it comes to talking about people. Some of the best comfort that I have is knowing that I will see Hazel again someday. I hope everyone in this room can continue their life with some part of Hazel in it, because if you do, I assure you, it would make her proud. Now in closing, I want to thank my parents for allowing Hazel to be in our lives. I want to thank Brenda and the rest of the family for sharing Hazel with us. If you guys ever need anything, you know I'll always be there for you. When I have my Hazel moments, and I'm going to have a lot of them, I may pick up the phone and call you for some cheering up. I would like to finish with a little saying that I came across. As I stand here and wonder how things would have turned out, not to have been a part of your life was there ever a doubt. I would see you again, just didn't know when. A week or so has passed, wondering how have you been. Just to see your face one last time is something I never would have thought. You have been on my mind all this time, something I had always and never forgot. The lessons I learned from you make each day more pleasant. Your teachings of everyday life were such a warm and nice present. I leave you knowing you are safe in his arms, no more pain and suffering, away from all harm. Rest with the angels until we will see you once more. We love you and have already missed you, things we will always adore. Watch over us for now, for one day it will come when we are laughing and talking again and having oh so much fun. We miss you, Hazel, but we are glad that you made it home. We wouldn't have wanted it any other way, even if it meant for all of us to be alone. I love you, Hazel, and I'll see you soon.